Hey guys, Shift 838 here again. I wanted to introduce y'all to my latest project. It's called the MX99. It's a full MX keyboard. Every switch, including Alpha Lock, is MX. It is compatible, of course, with the 994A. It has also been tested with the 9922. So it has the pins that the 992 require. Other options this thing has. First off, I want to give a shout out and a thank you to Troy that released his original MX keyboard for the TI-99 the Mylar keyboard replacement, as everyone knows what it was. I was able to obtain his permission to be able to use his brackets. That way I could line my keyboard up with his brackets and have very little modification that I had to do since it was already out there. Didn't have to reinvent the wheel. So thank you, Troy. I do appreciate that. So back to the features. Like I said, complete MX90 or MX switches, key switches. So any MX keycaps will do, whether you decide you want to get custom ones or not. I also implemented a destructive backspace key. One of the few things that many TIers wanted, but TI did not deliver on. Although we loved their keyboard originally when it was new, it worked great. That's where I learned how to type. So, but with the new destructive backspace, it just kind of changes the game a little bit. Other things that I have added to this thing. Now, it is controlled by the microcontroller, like I said. You can update the firmware simply by removing the bottom cover of the console, plugging in a firmware cable, with something like a USB tiny ASP, something like that, it will work. This uses an AT-Tiny84 microcontroller. Every pin of it's used. So I'm doing a lot of control on there, a lot of, things I had to do to not only get Alpha Lock to work and to get the destructive backspace to work the way I wanted it to, but also just simply because I'm a geek, we have a backlight. 3 different levels. That's 1, that's 2, and that's 3. Now, on the black keyboard that I did, these are what they call shine through legends, which is like new PC keyboards you see, right? On the beige keyboard, they're not shine through. The company I ordered them through do not do shine through on anything but black. So on the beige keyboard, although the backlight is enabled, depending on what you do to the keys, because the beige is not completely opaque, so it would shine the entire key and you could see the ribs and everything inside the plastic, and I didn't like that. So I actually plugged up the MX hole and shot a couple of layers of flat black or satin black, one of the two. No, flat black, yeah, because it was completely opaque. Let it dry overnight, pull them off, and I'll show you that keyboard here in a moment. Well, let's go ahead and show you what you can do, right? So like I said, you can save your Alpha Lock state. So right now it's all lowercase. You can see the Alpha Lock does work, right? So Alpha Lock is engaged. You can see it by this light. That's off. That's engaged. So that's enabled. To save this state, all you do is in the state that you want it saved in, will allow it to power up in that state because it will write it to the electrical part of the EEPROM. All you do is hold it down for 3 seconds. It'll flash. It's done. You turn it off. You walk back later on because you say, oh man, I still want to play Parsec. You can go in and the Alpha Lock is engaged, and then you'd have to, if you don't have the Alpha Lock fix, which this does have the Alpha Lock fix, by the way. You can see it's all uppercase. To disable it, you just turn around, turn it off. You want it to power up disabled. While it's off, you just hold it down for 3 seconds and it's done. It'll all automatically power up, right? And of course, you got your backlight like I showed you. Now, the good thing with the backlight is it'll save its last known state. It has 3 levels. You got low, you got medium, and you got high, right? Then another time it turns off. So say you always want it to, boot up saying low, right? It'll remember this state. You can turn it off, you turn it on, and wham, it's right there. It's already turned up. So for those late night gaming or programming sessions that we all like to have. So now let me show you the actual big function that, thanks to Gary, Mr. Opa, he actually made this suggestion, and I said, I can do that. So let's do it. So, but for me to do that, do what he suggested which was the destructive backspace key, I had to add another key over here, right? Well, on top of the backlight key, that's 2. So I had to decrease the spacebar. Spacebar was an 8U. Now it's a 6U. Just let everyone know, 6U stabilizers or stabilizer bars, very hard to find. I have ordered 4 or 5 of them, and none of them have been 6U. I've had to return every one of them, even though they claim they are. They are not. So I had to make my own. Nice little 3D printed jig. I've been my own. And a 6U stabilizer bar, when I do the pre-order, will be included with this. So you don't have to worry about trying to find one, right? I use what they call screw-in stabilizers. They're not plate mount stabilizers. These are screw-in PCB stabilizers for the space bar only. So the one you need. So let's just show you the backspace key. So yeah, way too many ones, right? You can hold it down, and as you see, it destroys and backspaces at the same time. So that's my backspace key. So I've got backspace on here. I have backlight on here. I have the new alpha lock engagement with the MX key, which is a momentary key. It's not latching. That's why I had to use a microcontroller also for the alpha lock key. And that's why it does require power. Now this system, just like my other system, has the new power supply in here. The internal power supply, the one by DeBone, I believe. And it was real easy to tap into that power supply because he already has an extra connector that has the 5-volt and the ground. Easy enough said to be done. Now these keyboards can also have flashed firmware. You can flash them, like I said, remove the bottom, use a tiny ASP or something that will program an AT-Tiny-84, and you're good to go, and it will work. I've actually programmed it on Linux. I've actually programmed it on PC. Now, I also have a Python program that will be released with this for download that you can use to flash this if you have the right programmer. That way it's easy. You don't have to worry about any command calls or anything. Everything's going to be right there for you. So that's the black and silver keyboard. So let's pull out this one. I've actually, since I had it apart, unplug the VGA, unplug the power. We're going to move this completely out of the way. And we're going to bring in this bad mamma jamma. Okay. Got the Pico 9918. I added this up to it, just because I wanted it to say Pico. I did put my reset here instead. And this is my standard or my normal speed for the dual clock that's in there. And I actually just did all this yesterday, actually. So I had to design this case. I wanted to mimic this one, that way it looked right. Now, like I said, the difference between this backlight and other backlight is these keys are not shine through legends. And like I said, I had to plug up the MX female on each side of these keys with a piece of, paper towel or something, because I wanted to shoot them and didn't want the paint to get inside there, because then it would be really, really tight. And if you ever had to take a key off, you might break a switch. So, but this one works the exact same way. Right now it's set up to power, up with alpha lock turned off. See? So it works the same way. And you got your backspace kill, which just kills everything. Works the exact same way, right? But that's the difference. Is let me turn the backlight on so you can see what it looks like. And that's pretty much what it looks like right there. So it's like the older backlight keyboards that didn't have the shine through legends, right? They just had the LEDs, and the LEDs would put light out around the edges of the actual keyboard, and that's all it is. But like I said, if you want the backlight, you can put them in there. The new PCBs that I have coming, they're actually being made now. Gary actually suggested that the PCBs for beige would probably look better in white, because they would probably blend a little better, which it's true. So I ordered some white ones. For the black and silver, still ordered black. But what I did, I added a couple things to it. I had to extend it a little further up, so it makes it a little wider. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to add a 16 pin or 18 pin keyboard surface mount option that links into the keyboard connector. That way, if someone has a USB keyboard from the old TI-99 USB keys from Jedi Map, or from one of the ones that I released, or anything like that, and you want to wire it into the keyboard like it used to have to be, so you could use both keyboards, you have an easy spot to solder them to. You don't have to worry about soldering them to the existing connector that has its own spot. The new one also is going to have an additional 5-volt and ground connection if you need it, for something else you may want to drive. But otherwise, I added a couple of extra LEDs for keys like the enter key and the alpha lock key, stuff like that, where they could shine from the back side also and up through here. So it's a secondary LED to get that entire, key, right? Because a lot of times, the shine through legends, they're only really designed for up top, right? Legends typically, or no further than the middle. But when you got something that goes all the way down the entire width of the key, which is almost 19 millimeters, it just doesn't reach it that way. So I added an extra couple ones that I'm going to try. They may end up on the production board. They may not. I don't know. On this prototype board, I did have a couple of issues with it as far as programming, right? That was the only issue I had, was the programming. Well, also the alpha lock fix. I had that, for some reason I had it backwards. So I fixed that since, and that's coming on the new keyboards that I ordered yesterday, or the new PCBs. So, but that's it, guys. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, send me an email, comment, whatever you need to do, and I'll answer it. But I will be offering a pre-order for this, and I'll probably be including on top of the 6U stabilizer bar itself. I will probably have options for you to be able to add the actual stabilizers, a set of stabilizers for it. I probably will not be adding the actual keyboard key switches, be letting you all be able to do that yourself, just because that can get very, very pricey. And some people may want to say, well, I can just get me a set of standard, OEM profile, which is what these are, OEM profile, by the way. And you can get a standard OEM profile key switches, for, 20, $30 for an entire 104 set, right? And then you could, get some that are customized for what you wanted to do, even if you wanted to do that. It's just completely up to you. So that's probably what it's going to come down to. Just, I'll probably include the key switches in as an option, just because I can order them. Now, the one thing, there's lots of different type of cherry key switches out. The different colors mean different things. I personally like the blue key switches because you get that really good click sound once the keycaps are installed. You really don't hear it until the keycaps are installed. But see if we can be quiet and you can hear it. On my black console, they're not blue key switches. They're actually brown key switches, which are more universal for, whether it's gaming or, typing or whatever it is, but they're a lot quieter. And I really prefer the blue ones. They're louder. I like it. But that's it. If anyone else has any questions or anything, please let me know. Thanks for watching.